My boyfriend mixed meat into my food to prove that vegetarians couldn't tell the difference, but obviously I could. Now I'm wondering if stupid people can tell if they're about to be single. For context, I, 27F, am a vegetarian and have been since I tried to end a chicken when I was 15 and couldn't go through with it. I don't mind that other people eat meat, but on a moral level, it's not okay for me. I'm not the vegetarian police, but I also get tired of having to explain to people around here that I do get enough protein and that I'm not eating the vegetables they cooked in lard. My boyfriend, 30M, teases me about being a vegetarian, but behind closed doors, he is, or was, actually really accommodating about it. He cooks me vegetarian food and says eating less meat has helped him take off a couple of pounds. Now for the reason why I'm writing this post. He had me and some of his friends over the other night and he made food for us. He made pork chops for them and a big salad for me. While I was eating my salad, I kept thinking that something was off. The dressing was so oily and had a really strong flavor. He always makes his own dressing, so I asked him what he used. We had all been drinking, and at this point, his two friends start cracking up. I'm sort of clueless, so I'm waiting for him to answer. He tells me that he mixed in lard for extra flavor and he didn't think I would notice. At this point, I just freeze mid-chew. When he sees my reaction, he starts to tell me it's not a big deal, it's just a joke, don't get upset, etc. I calmly spit the food into my napkin, place the plate down, and get up to leave. Everyone's gotten quiet at this point. His friends start apologizing, saying it was their idea, and my boyfriend starts telling me not to go. Screw that, I don't say a word and walk home. I know that vegetarians get a bad rap, but believe me when I say that I am not one of those people. I work in a rural community involving agriculture, and I would never survive out here if I were. I pack my own lunches for conventions and never make a big deal out of it, but having someone I care about essentially trick me into eating meat without my permission is crossing a huge line for me. I haven't spoken to my boyfriend for 3 days now. He's apologized and sent flowers, but in one of the texts, he told me I was overreacting, which for me was the deal breaker. My parents really like him, and when I told them what happened, my dad got upset and told me I'm making too big of a deal out of something silly. He says I'm letting my ridiculous eating habits dictate my life, and I'm really hurt hearing that. I feel like tricking me into eating lard was really cruel, but everyone's attitude here is that I need to get a sense of humor. I'm out of town at a conference, and I'm going to have to discuss this with him when I get back. Am I just being too sensitive? Edit. Thank you guys so much for making me feel less crazy. My dad always thought that my vegetarianism was a phase that I'd grow out of, but I think he and I are going to have a talk when I get back home. As for the boyfriend, we're also going to have a talk. He's made some other comments that I've let slide, so it's time for me to lay it out there. Update 1. Well, we had our come to Jesus talk when I got back about what happened. I explained to him how tired I was of defending being a vegetarian to people. It feels like my social identity, like when people think of me, they think of the vegetarian girl, and I really dislike that because I never bring it up. And when I say defend, I mean you get questions from all over. People seriously take you to task. Hell, one of the commenters on my last thread compared my actions to letting a child starve in a third world country. I've been asked multiple times if swallowing sperm is vegetarian or had some armchair philosophers point out the inconsistencies in my morals. And as I've gotten older, my defiance flag just isn't flying as high anymore. I don't want to sit down to every lunch with coworkers and hear the bad hunter joke, or have the rude secretary tell me that she read vegetarianism is usually a cover for blah blah blah. So, yeah, I obviously have a chip on my shoulder about all of this. Everything I said above, I laid out to my boyfriend, all of it. He explained he didn't think the joke would be a big deal because something similar happened at a potluck. One of my friends made a pasta side and used chicken stock. She didn't think about it, and I couldn't tell. When she realized later on, I shrugged and told her sometimes it happens. No reason to be angry with an honest mistake. I was pretty exasperated by his comparison and explained the difference using all of the examples you guys raised, with the subject of respect being a main component. We argued about this for a bit, and at one point, he said, I basically became a vegetarian for you. I bristled up over this comment because I've never asked that of him or anyone I've ever dated. I also pointed out that he was nowhere near a vegetarian, which was admittedly sort of petty. This went back and forth for a while, and finally, I just threw my hands up and asked why this was such a big deal. Why couldn't we sit down and talk about boundaries and move forward? He said he was worried about the future. He wants marriage, kids, and a stay-at-home mom. His mom told him that I need to eat meat during the pregnancy for the baby to develop properly and that the kids need to eat meat to grow up big and strong. I just stared at him, mouth open, completely blanked out. He said that he loved me but it was time for me to grow up and compromise. Honestly, I didn't know what to say. This was the first time he'd said he loved me, but he was also talking about a future that I didn't remember signing up for. I'm pretty lukewarm on kids, and I definitely have no interest in being a stay-at-home mom, and what do you mean compromise? You can be vegetarian while pregnant and have a perfectly healthy child. I think I was just overwhelmed. I said something along the lines of, I think you have the wrong girl, and went home pretty defeated. The next night I went to talk to my dad about what he said. Initially, he claimed he was worried for my health and brought up my bad run with veganism, but after some poking and prodding, he finally said, "I'm just worried you're never going to find someone." I just took a deep breath and sighed, because deep down, I think I knew that was his main concern. All the rest of my siblings are married and have children, so I'm already the odd man out. Add on to that the liberalism, the college degree, atheism, veggie stuff, and whatnot, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I told him that my boyfriend and I broke up and burst immediately into tears. He gave me a big hug and told me he supported and loved me, but he wanted to be able to pass on and know I would have someone to take care of me. I went home and stared at a wall for 3 hours. I'm okay, but I'm still sorting out all my feelings. I had a heavy night of drinking, a long morning of puking, and then I bought some anti-aging cream. My friends are taking me on a trip next week, which I'm really looking forward to. That's about it. Thank you everybody for being here for me.